Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is Raymond E. Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Trade Development and Senior Associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thanks for joining us on the show, Raymond. Now, Raymond, the U.S. economy is one of the key election issues Americans will be voting on the basis of. The outcome of the elections will influence the U.S. foreign policy, trade agreements, and, of course, the defense strategies and global markets. Trump has spoken about putting tariffs on imports, has spoken about imposing higher tariffs on imports from China and the rest of the world. Experts point to a rise in inflation should he win. Now, Harris's policies, sounding more status quo, have spoken of continued support to Ukraine, NATO, Israel, and Taiwan. How do you view the impact of either candidate becoming the next U.S. president on the U.S. trade policy overall? A brief overview.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on the World is One network because I'm a believer in the WION approach. I think that there is a very definite difference between what will happen with a Trump presidency and what will happen with a Harris presidency in regard to international economics. Unfortunately, the Trump approach is to be in love with tariffs. And he has said that he is going to provide a 10 to 20% tariff across the board on friends, adversaries alike, regardless of what happens. The idea that you can build an economic fortress America and not have relations which are not driven by tariffs in regard to such great democracies as India and the United States is simply wrong. And if that happens, it will have an effect on U.S.-India relations. It'll have an effect on U.S. relations with all of our friends and partners across the world. This is not a way in which to build prosperity. America must compete and not retreat if it is going to succeed as a source of stability and economic growth across the world. I think the Harris approach is much more in keeping with what the interest of the United States and great democracies like India have. And that is one of friend sourcing. And that is, what can you do to be able to move the international supply chains from authoritarian nations like China and Russia to friends such as India. And you have seen this already in the Biden administration, and I think Harris administration will have a continuation of that, of trying to work with our friends and partners to build not just geopolitical stability, but economic stability. It's absolutely wrong to think that these two areas are not connected. Some people will say, well, you can do whatever you want in regard to international economics, but we can still be able to stand together on geopolitical stability. That's just not right. The fact is that these are connected, and the approach of a Trump administration in building an international economic fortress America will redound to the detriment of the United States and the average worker really across the world. So I think there's a very grave and real difference here, and one would hope that the Harris approach will prevail.
Raymond, you spoke of the India-US relationship. Now, the US is a leading investor in India, particularly in technology, infrastructure, renewable energy and manufacturing sectors. If you could just extrapolate a little more on how you suppose the election outcome will impact the India-US bilateral ties in defense, trade and other strategic sectors.
Yes, I'd be happy to. The Trump approach, as you saw from the first administration, is a transactional approach. And that is, he's a real estate developer and an entertainer, and it's really a zero-sum game. I've got to win on a particular contract, and if you don't do as I say, I'm going to slap higher tariffs on you, as he did on aluminum and steel. The Biden administration took those tariffs and basically said, well, we may not be able to repeal it completely, but in regard to India, we're going to really disregard it and give India a pass. And that economic relationship has grown. I think it's particularly important in the area of tech transfer. The United States is still the place where innovation, technology takes place. India is a great reservoir of technology talent. And so there's an obvious complementary relationship there, which is win-win for both sides. It's not a question of the United States is going to win, the U.S. is going to lose, and we're going to each see how much we can get out of it. So I think the approaches are very different and will significantly impact the U.S.-India relationship because, as I said earlier, you can't just wall off the economic relationship from a political. In fact, they go hand in hand. One may influence more than the other at any particular time, but there's only one reality, and that is economics and politics must go forward to some degree together.
Thank you so much, Raymond E. Vickery, for your time and for your invaluable inputs on the broadcast today.
Oh, my pleasure.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.